Have you ever wondered how close you've come to danger without even realizing it? At Shivering Vault, we take you there, one story at a time. But before you drift off, consider liking this video, commenting where you're watching from and at what time, and subscribing to keep these chilling stories coming. Now, let's dive into these unsettling tales. This happened last year, around April. I was 17 at the time. I lived just outside Fort Worth, Texas, in this quiet little suburb where nothing ever happens. It's the kind of neighborhood where everybody knows everybody and people wave when they drive by. That kind of thing. My parents had planned this trip to San Antonio for months. It was just a little weekend getaway, 3 days, nothing crazy. They asked if I wanted to go, but I had a big algebra test that Monday and I was already behind, so I said I'd stay home. Plus, they figured I was old enough to watch my little brother for a couple days. He's 9. Pretty chill kid. Likes Pokemon and Hot Wheels and stuff. He's easy to take care of. So yeah, they left Friday morning around 10 a.m. My mom made a huge list of stuff. Emergency numbers, when to feed our cat, reminders to lock up, that kind of thing. I wasn't nervous or anything. I'd stayed home alone before, just never for this long. But like I said, nothing ever really happens around here. Friday night was boring in the best way. I helped my brother with his homework, we ate frozen pizza, watched a movie, then got ready for bed. I double-checked everything like my mom said. Doors locked, windows locked, curtains closed. Nothing weird. We have one of those narrow 2-story townhomes, kind of smushed in with 3 others, but we're at the end of the row. Backyard's small, fenced in. The trash bins are outside the gate along the side alley. Our street is quiet, lined with trees, not a lot of traffic. I stayed up a little later after putting my brother to bed around 9:30. I remember sitting on the couch, scrolling through TikTok with all the lights off except the lamp by the stairs. It was warm that night, like that sticky kind of spring heat that doesn't cool off even after the sun goes down. The AC was buzzing. Everything felt normal. I went up to bed around midnight, didn't hear anything, didn't see anything, slept fine. Saturday is where it starts. It was already hot when I woke up. I made cereal for both of us and we just hung out most of the day. Around 5 or so, the sun was starting to go down behind the trees, that kind of orange glow spilling across the street. We were sitting on the living room floor building a Lego set when there was a knock at the door. Not the doorbell. A knock. I remember standing up and feeling a little weird about it. No one knocks anymore. I peeked out the peephole and saw this guy standing there with a clipboard and a reflective vest, like the kind utility workers wear. He looked maybe late 30s, messy hair, kind of sweaty, like he'd been outside all day. He had this beat-up white sedan parked across the street. It didn't have any company logo or markings on it. I didn't open the door. I just kind of said, "Can I help you?" He said he was from the electric company and there was some kind of issue with our meter, that he needed to come inside to check something, that it would only take a minute. I told him I hadn't heard anything about that. He said something like, "It's a statewide update. They're not sending out emails anymore." That didn't make sense to me. I asked him for ID and he kind of froze for a second, then fumbled with his clipboard and said he left it in the car. He started getting kind of annoyed, like, "Come on, this will take 2 minutes." I didn't budge. I told him I wasn't allowed to let anyone in when my parents weren't home. He got this look on his face. I don't know how to describe it. Like, he was trying to hold back being pissed. Then he leaned down and looked directly into the peephole, like really close, and just stared. I didn't say anything. I didn't move. I waited. He finally turned and walked back to his car, but he didn't drive away. He just sat there, engine off, lights off, just sitting in the driver's seat, looking at our house. At first I thought maybe he was just calling his boss or something, but 10 minutes passed, then 20, then over an hour, still sitting there, just watching. By now the sun had gone down and the streetlights were on. I closed all the blinds and locked the door again, even though I knew I'd already locked it. My little brother kept asking me what was wrong, but I just told him some guy came by for the power and he was probably just doing paperwork or whatever. But I could feel my heart in my throat. It just didn't make sense. Why was he still there? We tried to ignore it. Watched a movie. Ate popcorn. I kept checking the front window every 15 minutes. Still there. By 10:30 p.m., I started freaking out a little. I didn't want to call my parents and scare them, but something just felt off. I didn't want to call 911 either because, I don't know. He hadn't done anything, he hadn't broken in or anything like that, just sat there. That's when I made a dumb decision. I took the trash out. It wasn't even overflowing or anything, but I felt like I needed a breather. I figured I could just walk out the back door, go down the steps, and dump it in the bin real fast. The alley was pitch dark, just one streetlight flickering near the corner. I didn't see him. I threw the bag in the bin, turned around, and that's when I heard it. Footsteps. Fast. Before I could react, a hand grabbed my wrist. I screamed. I tried to pull away, and he yanked harder. His grip was strong, too strong. I couldn't see his face fully in the dark, but I knew it was him. I panicked and elbowed him as hard as I could. He let go for just a second, and I ran. I didn't even turn around. I slammed the back door and locked it. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. My little brother ran downstairs crying. He didn't even know what was going on. I told him to go hide in the bathroom upstairs. Then I called 911. I was shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. I remember trying to sound calm, but I was so scared. My voice was cracking as I tried to explain what had happened. "Please, hurry," I begged. "There's a guy. He's been watching my house all day, and he grabbed me. He's still out there, I think." The dispatcher was calm, which helped a little, but I could barely focus on her words. I kept checking the door, the windows, like I was waiting for him to burst through, even though I didn't hear anything. It was like the world had gone silent. I remember holding the phone to my ear with my hand clutched around the cord, staring at the deadbolt on the front door. I wasn't sure it was enough. "You're doing the right thing," the dispatcher said. "Police are on their way. Stay inside, keep the doors locked. Don't open the door for anyone unless it's an officer." I waited for what felt like forever, but it couldn't have been more than 10 minutes before I heard sirens. They were loud, blaring, and I was relieved but terrified at the same time. The flashing red lights were visible through the blinds in the front window. It was like a storm had rolled in, and for a moment, I almost felt safe. The officers were fast. I didn't know exactly how many came, but it was at least 3 or 4, pulling up to the curb, guns drawn. I could see them through the side window. I had crouched, approaching the man's car. They didn't hesitate. They were all over that beat-up white sedan in seconds, their flashlights sweeping the area, checking around. Then one of the officers, he looked to be the senior one, turned and walked up to the door. I opened it a crack, only wide enough to see his face. His expression was all business. "We need to ask you a few questions," he said, voice low but not unkind. I stepped back, letting him inside. His partner stayed outside, watching the driveway, and I could hear them talking on their radios. He sat down on the couch, asking me for details about everything, about the man at the door earlier, about how long he'd been sitting in the car, about the incident outside. I told him everything I remembered, all the details. How I had asked for ID, how he kept staring at the peephole, how I felt like I was being watched the entire time. The officer seemed to understand. He took a deep breath, looking around the living room. "We've got a unit out there," he said, pointing toward the window. "We've got him in custody. We'll need to ask him some questions, too." They told me later, after they'd questioned him, that this guy had been in and out of trouble before. No serious crimes, but a lot of reports about him showing up at homes where young girls were home alone. I felt sick thinking about it. I couldn't stop shaking. The next couple of days were a blur. I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. My parents came back late Sunday night. I didn't find out exactly what happened to him after that. Part of me didn't want to know. I'm 18 and I live in this super quiet town in East Texas. It's one of those places where there's like 2 gas stations, a diner that closes by 8, and nothing but woods for miles in every direction. We're not completely off the grid, but it's definitely not the kind of place people just pass through. You gotta mean to come here. Our house sits on 5 acres, pretty deep into the trees. Long gravel driveway, no streetlights, just pine trees and dirt roads. My parents built it back when I was in elementary school, and I always liked how peaceful it was out here. Until this happened. It was a Saturday in early May. Warm, humid, no wind. The kind of night where the bugs start buzzing before the sun even sets. My parents had to go to a wedding in Houston. Some cousin I don't even really know. I could have gone, but I had finals coming up, and they said it was okay for me to stay behind. It was the first time they were leaving me completely alone overnight, which, honestly, I was kind of excited about. I had this plan to just veg out, order takeout, binge horror movies, maybe clean up a little to score some brownie points. Things started off normal. I ordered from this little Chinese place about 20 minutes away. The delivery guy came up the driveway just before it got totally dark. He was the last person I saw that night. After dinner, I finished some school stuff, texted a few friends, then watched The Strangers, which maybe wasn't the best idea in hindsight. The house was quiet except for the TV, and I kept the lights kind of low to get that movie theater vibe. You could hear crickets outside and sometimes the wind rustling the trees, but otherwise dead quiet. It was around 11:45 p.m. when the landline rang. That phone never rings, like literally never. We still have it because it's connected to the security system, and my dad says it's good to have in case of emergencies. But nobody ever uses it. Even my grandparents just call my cell. When I heard it, I kind of jumped. The ringtone is this loud, high-pitched, old-school ring. It echoed through the living room and made my heart skip a beat. I let it ring once, twice, then picked it up. Hello? Nothing. No breathing, no static, no voice, just nothing, like an open line. I waited a couple more seconds and said, hello, again, but still nothing. Then I hung up. My stomach felt weird, but I told myself it was probably a wrong number or some telemarketer or something. I tried not to overthink it. I went back to the movie, turned the volume up a little. I figured it was nothing. 20 minutes later, it rang again. I let it ring a few times before answering this time. Still nothing. Not a word. Just a quiet, open line. I hung up again, and now my nerves were buzzing. I muted the TV and just sat there for a second, staring at the dark windows. Then I walked over to the back door, checking the lock. Still latched. Same for the kitchen window. Then the hallway window. Then the front door. All locked. Still, I felt this growing unease in my chest, like my body knew something my brain didn't. Around 12:30, it happened again. Same call, same silence. I didn't answer this time. Instead, I shut off the TV completely and stood in the dark living room, just listening. And that's when I heard it. A loud, heavy knock. Not at the front door, not even on a door at all. It came from the side of the house, the wall, right beneath the window. Just one knock, like someone hit it with their fist. I froze. I couldn't move for a second. Then, slowly, I crept over to the window and pulled back the curtain just an inch. I couldn't see anything, just trees swaying a little in the dark. I waited. Nothing. Another knock. This time, behind the house, the back door. Then another. This time, my bedroom window. I ran down the hall and slammed the door shut, heart racing. I didn't even want to look outside. I grabbed my phone and called 911. I couldn't think straight. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely tap the screen right, and I kept messing up the unlock code on my phone. When I finally got the 911 dispatcher, I was trying so hard not to cry that I could barely get words out at first. I whispered into the phone, "Someone's outside. They keep knocking. Not on the doors, like on the walls." The dispatcher asked my address. I told her. She asked if the doors were locked. Yes, I locked everything earlier. I double-checked. She asked if I could see anyone. I told her no, I was too scared to look again. My room's at the far end of the hall, facing the trees out back. There's a little motion light near the back porch, but it hadn't turned on, which made me think maybe they weren't coming close. Or maybe they were just smart. She stayed on the line with me, calm and patient, while I crept into my parents' room down the hall. Their room felt safer, maybe because it's bigger and has fewer windows. I locked the door behind me and curled up in the corner between the bed and the dresser, clutching the phone with both hands like it was the only thing keeping me alive. She told me officers were on the way. It might take a bit. They'd be coming from the county sheriff's office, about 15 minutes out. 15 minutes felt like forever. Every little sound outside made me flinch. The creaking of the house settling, the wind in the trees, the rustle of something in the brush. The landline rang again. That shrill, awful sound cut through the house like a siren. I nearly screamed. The dispatcher heard it too. She told me not to answer it, just stay where I was. She kept talking to me, asking questions to keep me from spiraling, but I could barely hear her anymore, because now I heard footsteps outside, not running, walking, slow, careful. And then another knock, right outside the bedroom wall. 3 knocks this time. Not loud, not rushed, just deliberate. I clamped a hand over my mouth. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. I didn't dare move. Then silence. And then, not even a minute later, sirens. Distant at first, then louder, fast, coming up the long driveway like salvation itself. Red and blue lights lit up the dark corners of the woods from where I sat behind the bed. I heard car doors slam, heard voices yelling commands, and then running. Not inside the house, outside, across the gravel. Heavy, stumbling footsteps crashing through the underbrush behind the house. The dispatcher said, "They're there. Officers are on the scene. Stay where you are until they come get you." I couldn't speak. I just nodded to myself, still curled up in that corner like a statue, heart in my throat. A few minutes later, I heard a knock on front door this time, a man's voice. "Rachel? Sheriff's Deputy Hall? It's safe. You can come out now." I waited another second. Then I opened the door slowly. There were 2 officers, both of them in uniform, flashlights in hand. One of them was talking into a shoulder mic, relaying something. The other looked at me and asked if I was okay. I nodded. I think I whispered yes, but my throat was dry. I couldn't even really cry. I just stood there. That's when I saw it. They had a guy on the ground out near the woods. One deputy had him pinned while another cuffed his hands behind his back. I felt something sink in my stomach, because I recognized him. When they lifted him to his feet and turned him toward the patrol car, I saw his face in the light. It was Mark. Mark from my history class, the quiet guy who always sat in the back. We'd talked a few times, nothing serious. He was kind of awkward, but not in a creepy way. Or so I thought. He'd asked me to prom about a month ago. I said no. I was nice about it. I swear I was. He was charged with stalking, trespassing, a bunch of stuff. My parents came home first thing the next morning and never left me alone again. And even now, a year later, with the alarms and cameras and deadbolts, I still can't hear a knock at night without freezing, like maybe he's back, or maybe someone worse is. I'm not a writer or anything, so if this comes out messy, sorry. I just needed to tell someone about what happened. This happened last year, and I still don't really have a solid explanation for it. I'm Ethan. I was 19 at the time, a sophomore in college. My older brother Derek had just bought this place, a 2-story brick house in a super quiet suburb like 20 minutes outside Fort Worth. Real clean neighborhood, lawns trimmed, fences lined up perfect, barely any traffic. Derek's job sends him out of town sometimes, and this one trip came up where he was going to be gone for a full week. He asked if I could house sit, water the plants, check the mail, keep an eye on things, easy stuff. I said yeah, no problem. I didn't even have classes that week because it was fall break. Honestly, I was kind of excited. A whole house to myself felt like a vacation. He left on Sunday morning. I pulled in later that day with a duffel bag, my Xbox, and like 4 frozen pizzas. First couple days were perfect. I slept in, streamed dumb movies, played online with my friends till like 3 a.m., raided his fridge. He had these expensive cheeses I'd never buy for myself. It was chill. By Tuesday, I had a routine going. Wake up late, shower, chill, order food, stay up too late, sleep. I even posted a couple of dumb Instagram stories. Just me sprawled on his couch, writing chilling in Big Bro's crib. Nothing fancy, just bored and joking. The house itself was kind of quiet. It sat at the end of a cul-de-sac, backed up to a green belt, so there weren't a ton of neighbors nearby. Just a solid wood fence out back, trees beyond that, and nothing but dark skies at night. Peaceful, really. But then came Wednesday. That night changed everything. It was Wednesday night, or I guess technically Thursday morning, when it happened. I'd stayed up playing Rocket League and watching YouTube until around 1:30 a.m., made some frozen taquitos, scrolled Instagram, passed out on the couch in the living room with a blanket. All the lights were off except the TV and the kitchen light, which I'd forgotten to turn off. I was in that weird, half-asleep state where you're not fully out, but not really awake either. Then I heard it. A knock. Sharp. Single. Loud. It wasn't like someone politely knocking to say, "Hi, neighbor." It was solid. Firm. 3 beats. I sat up fast, heart pounding, suddenly fully awake. I looked at my phone. 2:12 a.m. It wasn't raining, no wind, just dead quiet outside. The kind of quiet that makes even small sounds feel huge. The knock had come from the front door, I was pretty sure. But it didn't happen again. No doorbell, no second knock, just that one set. I got up slowly and crept toward the door. My brother's place has a peephole and a camera mounted just above it, so I peeked through the peephole first. And there he was. A tall guy, standing maybe 4 feet back from the door, black hoodie pulled up, hands in his pockets, just staring straight ahead. He didn't shift or move or say anything right away, just stood there like he was waiting for something. And then, after maybe 5 or 6 seconds, he said in a calm, quiet voice, "Hey, I'm a friend of Derek's. He told me to stop by." I didn't open the door. Something felt wrong. I said, "Sorry, who are you?" He didn't answer. He just stood there a second longer, then glanced sideways, like toward the side of the house. Not back at a car or anything, just to the side, almost like he was checking to see if someone else was coming. That's when every hair on my neck stood up. I said again, louder this time, "What's your name?" Still nothing. Then, boom. He slammed into the door. I nearly jumped out of my skin. I stumbled back, heart racing, and he hit it again. I could see the deadbolt shifting in the lock. Like if I hadn't locked it properly, he'd be inside already. I shoved my shoulder against it as hard as I could and relocked the deadbolt. My hands were slick with sweat. I don't think I even breathed. For maybe 15 seconds, everything was silent again. I grabbed a kitchen knife. Not even thinking, just pure instinct. I backed into the hallway, phone in one hand, knife in the other, trying to call my brother. He picked up on the 3rd ring, groggy as hell. "Ethan, what's up?" "Some guy's at the door," I whispered. "He said he knows you, tried to break in." Derek was instantly awake. "What? What guy? I didn't tell anyone to come by. Call 911 now." Lock everything." I was already dialing. I went into the downstairs guest bedroom and locked the door behind me. I crouched next to the bed, still holding the knife, waiting to hear something. But there was nothing. Just silence, like he was gone. Or worse, inside already, moving quietly. I stayed curled up for what felt like forever. I was whispering with the 911 dispatcher, trying to stay calm, but barely able to string thoughts together. She was asking me questions. If he was still there, if I was hurt, if there was more than one person. I couldn't answer half of them. All I could say was, "He tried to break in. I don't know who he is. Please send someone fast." She told me officers were en route. I remember she kept repeating that, trying to keep me grounded. "They're coming, Ethan. Stay on the line. They're coming." It wasn't even 10 minutes before I saw the red and blue lights flash through the frosted bedroom window. I heard tires on gravel, car doors slamming, voices shouting, then a knock at the front door. "Fort Worth Police, you're safe now. You can come out." I opened the door and nearly dropped the knife from how shaky my hands were. 2 officers stood there, both with flashlights drawn. One of them gently took the knife from me while the other asked what had happened. I told them everything, down to the exact time I heard the knock, what the guy said, how he looked, how he shoved the door like he was going to come through it. They asked if I knew him. I said no. I showed them the Ring camera feed. But the video, it was weird. It showed him standing there, exactly how I remembered. Hood up, not looking into the lens, not moving much. But when he turned his head to the side, you could barely see it on the video, but I swear, he gave a small signal, like a nod to someone off camera. And that was the worst part, because the police checked everything. They swept the yard. No footprints in the grass. No signs of forced entry. The side gate, it was unlatched, but still perfectly closed. Not broken, not open. No one had seen a car. No tire marks on the curb. Nothing. It was like he walked up, tried to get in, and then vanished. They took my statement, told me they'd keep a cruiser nearby for the rest of the night. Maybe it was someone looking to rob the place, they said. Might have figured the house was empty. I kept saying, "But how did he know Derek's name?" And they didn't really answer. One of the officers finally said, "Sometimes people listen, or they ask around. You'd be surprised what someone can learn if they're patient." That didn't make me feel any better. Derek got back the next evening. I didn't tell him everything on the phone. I waited until he was home to show him the footage. He watched it in silence, arms crossed, jaw clenched. "I don't know that guy," he said. "I've never seen him in my life." We got motion lights installed, added more cameras around the house. Derek even installed a new security system that sends alerts straight to his phone. I went back to my dorm a couple days later, but I didn't sleep right for weeks. Every little sound made me jump. I'd check the door 3-4 times a night. I'd wake up at random hours just to make sure no one was outside. I never finds out who the man was or how he knew Derek's name. That's it for today's tale from Shivering Vault. If you have a story worth sharing, drop it in the comments or send it our way. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your fellow thrill seekers. As always, the Shivering Vault thanks you for unlocking today's tale. Until next time, the vault awaits your return.